Hello, everyone. This is Rose. Today's topic from the Book of Life is You Should Know Better. How do one know better when one hasn't been taught better? Let's take a look at this short story from the Book of Life. Bobby is a 50-year-old man-child who can't seem to get over his mother telling him throughout his childhood, "You should know better." Many incidents in his life have triggered this time in his childhood, causing it to remain a fresh wound in his side. Bobby wants to marry the love of his life, Leona. However, his fiancée Leona has postponed the wedding several times due to Bobby's inability to deal with his childhood trauma. Bobby is 10 years Leona's senior. They have been dating for 5 years and engaged for 2 years. Bobby has never been in a relationship with a woman who can woo him the way Leona does. He wants the fellas to know she is off the market and belongs only to him. Can you blame him? He's 10 years older than her. He don't have all years to wait. He wants to marry her now. Leona, she loves Bobby and wants to spend forever with him. She is just concerned about his lack in common sense and judgment. She finds herself talking to him in the same manner as her 10-year-old son from her previous relationship. She asked Bobby to join with her in getting counseling by a licensed professional. She's trying to put that effort forward to show Bobby that she loves him and she wants to marry him, but she going in with red flags. She's concerned. Bobby is hesitant, but he agreed. Leona uses her resources from the clinic where she works to find a husband and wife duo. She understands that she needs to make Bobby feel comfortable with counseling. So having a husband and wife duo who are both licensed psychologists hopefully will give Bobby that reassurance that no one is there to beat up on him and take sides with Leona. But she asked Bobby, was this duo that she found okay? Bobby said he had to think about it. She expressed to Bobby that she wanted to make sure that both her and him feels heard, feels understood, and is validated. So Leona began to explain to Bobby that the husband and wife duo, who has been privately counseling couples for over 10 years, they each work separately for a mental health organization. So Leona asked Bobby to be patient while she reads the duo's bio for his consent before scheduling an appointment. She wanted to make sure that he was very comfortable with who she had chosen, that it was not in her favor, and that she was thinking about him. Bobby and Leona both agreed after she read his bio for them to counsel with this person, to go see this duo couple for counseling. So they made an appointment, a consultation appointment. And they arrived 20 minutes prior to their appointment. They had to fill out new patient packet and read over those do's and don'ts and whatever they give you at the doctor's office or a psychologist's office that you have to read over and sign your life away, so to speak. But they sat there patiently, reading over the documents, signing what they felt was necessary that needed to be signed. And after turning in the new patient documents, 10 minutes later, they were called into the doctor's office. As they entered into the room, they was escorted by the doctor's assistant. So as they entered into the room, the dual psychologists were sitting in matching chairs that faced a long couch. Both doctors stood to greet Bobby and Leona before asking them to have a seat on the couch. Each of the duals took 5 minutes to introduce themselves and give a brief statement of their medical history and credentials. They wanted them to feel comfortable. The husband duo goes by the name of Dr. G, is the husband, and the wife uses the full last name, which is Dr. Greenwood. They thought that would be easier for their patients to know how to address them and identify them when speaking to them, since they both have the same last name. So Dr. G is the husband, goes by Dr. G. The wife uses the full last name, Dr. Greenwood. Dr. G began to explain how each counseling section would go as far as the formality of things. He states because today's section is only a consultation, they are meeting to hear from each person separately why they feel they need counseling. Dr. G asked Bobby why he was seeking counseling. He started with Bobby. As Bobby paused to think about the question and put his thoughts together, Leona started to speak for him. Dr. Greenwood, who is the wife psychologist, interrupts Leona, expressing in a very polite way, "Bobby has a voice. Allow him to use it." Bobby was surprised that statement came from Dr. Greenwood instead of her husband, but was happy she spoke up because Leona always stepped in to talk for him without his consent. So Bobby clears his throat before speaking. "Well," states Bobby, "my initial reason for coming to counseling is because Leona suggested it as a stipulation to us getting married." He said, "However, after she read each of your bios to me, gave me a brief description of who you were and what you did, I realized you both may be able to help us with some issues we are having." He says, "I love Leona very much and want to be with her forever. However, there is those times she talks to me like I am her child. When she does this, it triggers hurtful memories of my mother making me feel less than adequate." Then Bobby paused. He got quiet. So the doctors took it that he was finished. "Thank you for sharing, Bobby," stated Dr. G. "We will explore your triggers in counseling. Our goal here today is to help you use tools that lessen the effect and power of the triggers." So our goal is just to find out what it is that is needed, and then we can better assess which tools that we need to present that can help you lessen the effect and power of the triggers. Bobby nods his head in agreement with Dr. G. Dr. Greenwood turns to Leona and asks her reason for counseling. Leona states, I have one son. I do not want to feel like I'm marrying my son. I have to always think for Bobby or guide him like a child. I want him to take the initiative and lead with wisdom. So Dr. Greenwood asked her, Leona, do you love Bobby? Yes, I love him very much, states Leona. Dr. G looks at her. She said, thank each of them. She basically thanked each of them, Bobby and Leona, for coming and sharing their need for counseling. She expressed to them that she knew this was not an easy thing to do, to admit that there is some things that will be best solved through having an outside third person come in and counsel with them. So she just wanted to let them understand that they made the right decision by coming. She expressed how counseling would benefit them both. After that, her husband chimed in and he spoke and he said he suggests that they should counsel with him and his wife at least once a week for 1 hour per counseling section. Bobby and Leona agreed with Dr. G and Dr. Greenwood. The doctor's assistant was called into the office to escort Bobby and Leona to the receptionist desk to set up their weekly counseling sections. So after they went home and their counseling sections were set up, they discussed the consultation among themselves. They both liked what happened in the consultation. They both was on board. Leona wanted to make sure that Bobby was okay with everything that was said in the consultation, and he was more excited about counseling than she was. So 1 week from the day of the consultation, Bobby and Leona are now sitting back in front of Dr. G and his wife to begin their counseling. Dr. G opens the counseling section by asking Bobby what happened in his childhood that caused him to become triggered. Bobby says, well, Dr. G, I was raised by a single mother who did not have any living relatives other than a sister, my aunt. My father died when I was 4 years old. My mother never remarried. As her only child, my mother placed a great deal of responsibilities on me starting at the age of 10. She took me to the local store in our small hometown in Mississippi to work. Every day, before and after school, I would clean the store, stack the shelves, help the customers, and run errands for $1 a day. See, back in those days, $1 was a lot of money. And it was okay for store owners or people to hire kids who was underage because they was paying us cash. We wasn't on there, we wasn't listed as an employee by law. We was just helping out around the store and we would get paid cash. So my mother knew the owner of the store, took me there, and I began to work for the owner at the age of 10 for $1 a day. So the store, as mentioned, the store owner paid me once a week. Many times I would have to purchase goods from the store with a list given to me by my mother. I had the responsibility of making sure the owner gives me the correct balance owed to me after subtracting the cost of the goods from my pay. Each week, my mother would yell at me because the owner would cheat me out of a quarter or two. My mother would say, "You should know better. You are the man of the house and should know when someone is cheating you." Dr. G interrupted Bobby and asked him, did he receive a receipt from the store owner? He wanted to know, did you receive a receipt? Also, he wanted to know, did he know the cost of the items he purchased? So he basically asked him, did you know, Bobby, the cost of each item you was purchasing? Bobby replied to Dr. G's question with, no, I did not know the cost of the items purchased. There was no label on the food items or on the shelves listing the cost. The owner would ring up each item purchased by a customer. Whenever a customer came into the store, he would just ring up each item purchased because he knew the cost. And then he would tell that customer the total of the amount due. The cash register was old. It never had a receipt paper in it. So Dr. G looks at him, he asks him, well, how did you feel after your mother would yell at you? Bobby said, I would feel bad for not knowing I was being cheated, as well as for not having the courage to ask the store owner for the total cost so I can use the arithmetic I was learning in school to figure out the balance owed me. I feared the owner would fire me if I questioned him. None of the other customers that came in the store questioned the owner. So I had no way of totaling up the items that I purchased from my mother's list. I had no way of knowing. How my mother knew, I don't know. I never asked her. I just did not want to cause a problem between the store owner and myself and my mother. I knew how important this job was to my mother. My mother and I really needed the food items and money made at the store. That's why I remained silent and I just took whatever my mother said to me and didn't say anything. As I grew into a teenager, my mother would yell at me for coming home late from the store because I would hang out sometimes with my friends after work. It was the only time I had a chance to play and be a kid. She would yell if I did not properly repair things around the house. She will always say, I should know better for everything that I appear to do wrong in her eyes. She will always say, you should know better. Bobby, you should know better. But I did not know. I did not know how to please my mother, and I did not feel like I knew better. I felt like I was a big disappointment to my mother for not knowing better. So Dr. G interrupts Bobby and asks him, at what age did you leave home? Bobby says, I couldn't wait to leave home at the age of 18. I enlisted in the Army on my 18th birthday. I knew going into the Army, I would get a skill other than working in the local small town store, and I would make money that I could send home to my mother. So I enlisted in the Army. And 2 months after enlisting, I was living on base in North Carolina. So Dr. G asked Bobby, Do you know the highest grade level your mother completed? Bobby states, I'm not sure. I do know she did not finish high school. I would hear my mother and my aunt talking about working at the age of 12, cleaning people's houses. My mother was a self-made seamstress, and she also cleaned people's houses for a living. This is how she made money until the day she died. Dr. G tells Bobby, he says, Bobby, what I am about to say is not to make light of how you felt based on what you experienced. Also, I'm not making an excuse for your mother's actions. With that being said, he says, giving your mother level of education and how you expressed to me that she also had to work at the age of 12, cleaning people's houses and being a seamstress. I believe your perception of her choice of words combined with the tone she used did not match what she was actually expressing. People from the South who lived in small towns articulated themselves using phrases and words that were defined to have a different meaning in the dictionary from how they actually used the word or phrase to express a situation or incident. So he says, Bobby, what I'm trying to say to you is the dictionary has one meaning for the words or the phrase, but the way that a person from a small town in Mississippi actually used the words and phrase is totally different from the actual meaning of the word or phrase. He said, I'm not going to get into why it is that way. I think you understand. He said, but given the level of her education, you have to take that into consideration and where she was from. He said, I believe her heart, your mother's heart, was crying out to your father that he should have been there to teach you better. I do not believe your mother actually felt her 10-year-old son was to automatically have the knowledge and wisdom to be all-knowing and by instantaneously just knowing better. You're supposed to just know better. I don't believe that was her mindset. I think when she was crying out and yelling at you, I think it was really directed at your father, although he was deceased. So, see, Bobby, as I stated, although your dad was not living at the time, it does not prevent your mother for being angry at him for leaving her to raise a son without the skills to teach you how to be a man. She knew in her heart she did not have those skills. So I believe when she was crying out to your father. You left me without the skills to raise this boy child. I do not know how to teach him how to be a man. In essence, your mother was actually lashing out at your father without realizing how it was affecting you. So Bobby thinks about it for a minute. He say, okay, so what you are saying, Dr. G, makes sense. My mother told me on her deathbed that she was proud of me. She said that no one taught me how to be a man. She says, but nonetheless, son, she says, she told me that I walked in a man's shoes from an early age. And she told me that I did an outstanding job without a teacher. I felt so good when my mother told me that on her deathbed. So what you just stated, Dr. G, has given me clarity to the words my mother spoken on her deathbed. Thank you for that, Dr. G. Having Bobby go first in the counseling section was to shine light on a potential issue that could be the root cause of the problem you two are having in your relationship, stated Dr. Greenwood. She wanted Leona to understand why Bobby was chosen to go first in the counseling section. She knew that whatever he said would shine a light on a potential issue that could be the root cause of the problem in their relationship. The doctor explained that it's difficult for a man to put what he is feeling into words, especially when the woman goes first and the man has to listen to what he perceives as negative talk against him. The woman usually gets more clarity when she listens to the man speaks first. With this being said, Dr. Greenwood asked Leona, how do you feel about what Bobby said? Well, he said what has provided clarity on the triggers. I think he spoke what was said really did provide clarity. I now realize that I am a contributor to his triggers. I do talk to him the same way I talk to my son. I often tell them both they should know better. Now that I think about it, that's a phrase I got from my mother. As a kid growing up, my mother would yell at us also and tell us all the time, you should know better. So I find myself saying that to my son as well as to Bobby. I do talk to him in the same manner that I talk to my son. I often sometimes would just be silent because I get tired of yelling. And then I hold it inside. And when I hold it inside, then it comes out the same way. So holding it inside doesn't change how I present it. It just makes it come out a little bit more harsher. Now I'm thinking about it, and I got clarity, and I'm saying to myself, how is it that they should know better? And without me even taking into consideration, how should they know better if they haven't been taught better? I never thought about that. I never took that into consideration before, ever, into this section and listening to Bobby speak. This section has opened my eyes. I now realize I haven't taken any time with my son teaching him to do the things I expect him to know to do. I just expect him to know certain things and to do certain things. And I never realized that I didn't teach him to know those things. And how do I expect him to know it and to do it if I did not take time to teach him? Also, I haven't talked to him. I haven't talked to my son about what is morally right and what is morally wrong. Yet I expect him to automatically know what is good and what is bad, what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing. I would often say to him and Bobby, "Why did you do that? You should know better." I think as a parent, we think common sense is to make up for our lack in teaching or training our kids, especially our boys when there is no man in the home. We think they're supposed to automatically have that common sense and that knowledge to know better. At least that's the way I was thinking. See, as a nurturer, Dr. Greenwood, as a woman who is a nurturer by nature, there is this natural instinct that kicks in for a woman when she gives birth to a child. That's what happened for me. I had this natural instinct that just kicked in because I wasn't trained and taught on how to raise a kid, how to take care of a child, but something inside of me just knew what to do, how to handle this baby with being very delicate with this baby, how to test that water and make sure that baby was not put in water that was too hot or too cold when I bathe it, how to test that bottle of the water in the liquid in the bottle, the milk in the bottle, to make sure I was not feeding my baby something that was too hot or too cold. I mean, it was just this natural thing that I just knew to do. And I guess in my mind, I just assumed that boys had this natural ability as well. I think this gives women a little upper hand. I guess I can call it common sense, because what else could it be? So I truly believe women have a little upper hand when it comes to common sense that we automatically expect from a man, or we expect them to know or to have. Dr. Greenwood looks at Leona and she tells her, "You're on the right track. You're on the right track, Leona." She says, however, what you need to get out of this section is that communication is the key in all the scenarios given from you and Bobby. Communication is the key with your son and with Bobby. It's not just about communicating, but it's about how you communicate. You have to always remember to communicate in the same manner you would like for someone to speak to you. She said the tone is everything. The tone will determine if the listener will open the door to what you are saying and learn from it, or close the door because the tone, the contents of the tone is so harshly delivered, it shuts their mind down from receiving it. She says, so that is so important and so key. Don't ever assume that a person should know something. But at the same time, don't talk to them in a harsh way, as though in a derogatory way, thinking that you have to teach them. You have to find out where they're at. Don't just assume they should know, and don't assume they don't know. You have to communicate to find out where a person is at. And you have to do it in a way that they feel comfortable with how you approaching them. So it's about the words and the tone and the way you communicate with them. You got to have compassion and you got to have understanding. The delivery of how you present it is very important. Leona looks at Dr. Greenwood and she says, I understand. She says, thank you so much. Thank you so much, you and your husband, for helping us get to a place where we have more understanding in this one section based on years and years of confusion, of not having that clarity. You gave us clarity in this one section. So Dr. G, after Leona finished speaking, Dr. G horned in and he said, well, we want to thank you both for opening up your minds and your time for counseling. We look forward to continuing our weekly counseling with you both. And he says, next week we would like to discuss the change in using the tools that we have given to you both here today. And Dr. G calls in his assistant to escort them out. Click the thumbs up and the subscribe button to receive notification of more articles from the Book of Life. Remember to click that thumbs up button. It lets me know you are listening to this message. Thank you. Be blessed. Be safe. Peace.